Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Buffalo SportsCenter. I am Don, and yes, I still exist. I know that I haven't been on the channel in quite some time, but that'll change going forward. I'm back. I'm no longer as busy. I don't foresee myself being as busy in the coming months, but it's good because now I, along with all of you, get to witness the NHL offseason take in full swing here. Yes, it's about to get really busy off the ice for all 32 NHL teams, including the new Utah Hockey Club. Oh, that name is so weird. I don't like that. I haven't been on the channel, so you haven't got my thoughts, but the Utah Hockey Club. That's a horrible first name for a new franchise. Yuck. Do they really need to pay that franchise or that agency that much money to come up with the Utah Hockey Club? Probably not. That agency just committed a grand larceny of a financial deal. But anyways, let's get back to the point on hand. Yes, the Buffalo Sabres are rumored to be big-time buyers this offseason. And over the last couple of off seasons, we've seen under Kevyn Adams, he's been a little gun shy. Ever since the Taylor Hall signing, Cal in a previous video alluded to that. Kevyn Adams has been very skittish about making big splashes, but this is the offseason. This upcoming season is the year for the Sabres to finally make the playoffs. They have to. They have to end this big, long drought. They have some of the pieces, but they don't have everything. They have a new coach with Lindy Ruff, which I love, by the way, but they need to give Ruff the proper tools so that he can succeed in here in Buffalo, something that he did not necessarily have as coach in New Jersey. He did not have a goaltender, nor did he have a real backup goaltender either, although I just saw the New Jersey Devils did acquire Jacob Markstrom from the Calgary Flames. And that's one of the deals that we'll be talking about today because, yes, we'll be going through a couple of Buffalo Sabres mock off seasons. So I have three scenarios for all of you guys to sit back and judge. My first scenario will be realistic. My second scenario will be a disaster off season for the Buffalo Sabres. And my third one will be a crazy wild card. We go all in on this whole we want to make the playoffs thing. That will be the third scenario. But first, I want to talk about some news that's emerging from NHL camps right now, and that is the status of Jeff Skinner. The veteran left winger is rumored to be bought out in the coming days. This could actually be happening, and I will account for this in one of my three scenarios. Jeff Skinner has 3 years left of his current 8-year, $72 million contract that he signed way back in 2018 under Jason Botterill. I remember he scored 40 goals in his first season in Buffalo, signed this big deal. Ralph Krueger comes in. Jeff Skinner does not do well whatsoever, only has 14 goals 1 year, demoted to the fourth line. But then Don Granato comes in, and suddenly Jeff Skinner is reborn again, has a 30-goal season, a 20-goal season. But this past season wasn't very good for Jeff Skinner. Not really. He had a strong first half of the year, but then he got injured or sick. We don't know exactly what happened. He hasn't really said how it has affected his play going into the second half of last season, but it was clear that Jeff Skinner was not playing up to his full 100% potential. He was not scoring. He kind of disappeared, and eventually Don Granato did demote Skinner to the third line. And you can't have a third liner making $9 million a season. But afterwards, Don Granato is fired postseason, right after the final game of the season, and the Sabres quickly bring in Lindy Ruff. And it was clear from the get-go that Jeff Skinner is not the type of player that Lindy Ruff likes on his roster. You could say that Jeff Skinner is a new version of Maxim Afinogenov. I wouldn't really say so. Jeff Skinner, like Afinogenov, does not bring much defensive skill to the game. He is a very good finisher. However, Jeff Skinner isn't really all that fast either. He's not fantastic on the transition. Now, is he really good in the offensive zone? Is his finishing top notch? Will he get you 35 to 40 goals on a real team? Yes, yes, and yes. But the Sabres at this point, they need a different sort of skill set for first line winger. They need to be a little bit nastier, a little bit bigger, and they need a more all-around player, another hustler that Lindy Ruff would love to have. And Jeff Skinner isn't really that. That's not his skill set. He's a finisher. He needs an elite center to set him up. He doesn't really drive play all on his own. He doesn't drive a line all on his own either. So Lindy Ruff doesn't exactly love that. And because of that, Elliot Friedman, Jeff Merrick on their 32 Thoughts podcast have revealed that, yeah, it does sound like Jeff Skinner could be bought out. It's likely that he will be bought out. It could happen as soon as right when the NHL offseason begins, 48 hours after the conclusion of the Stanley Cup Finals. Now, the Finals could end Friday in Game 6 in Edmonton, or it could stretch all the way to Game 7 next Monday. But either way, this decision, this resolution is likely to be seen within the next 7 days. But it's very interesting. Jeff Skinner will be, or could be, bought out. We'll see. Will be is the right words. We could see about that. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised about all of that. It's very shocking that Jeff Skinner could be bought out, especially looking at down the line and what could happen in terms of that buyout cap against the Sabres, because for the first couple years, it's pretty good. The Sabres actually get $7 million in cap relief, but then you'll look towards 2026. No, we keep looking. $4 million, $4 million, $6 million. Jeez. 2026-27 season is where Jeff Skinner will account for $6 million against the Sabres cap, and he won't even be playing in Buffalo. After that, it only turns into $2.4 million, but I don't really know. Kevyn Adams has said he doesn't want to curb against the cap. He wants to keep bringing in playmakers. This kind of would go against that. I'd hate to see Jeff Skinner be bought out and then score 35 goals for a team like the Nashville Predators, per se. But anyways, that's all I have to say about Jeff Skinner. Let's get to my 3 scenarios now for what could happen this offseason. So let's zoom on over here. Yes, nice, cool. Isn't this pretty? It is, isn't it? So I have a couple of scenarios here. You may have just seen the one. I'll start with my realistic. And this was before the Jeff Skinner news, but I don't know if I buy it. Jeff Merrick has been wrong about Jeff Skinner. So for the purpose of my realistic scenario, that's what this is right here. This is the realistic scenario. I still have Jeff Skinner on the first line for the Buffalo Sabres, being centered by Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch. That's pretty status quo. Second line, J.J. Peterka, Dylan Cousins, Jack Quinn. You'll notice in all 3 of my scenarios, that second line does not change. It will be Peterka, Cousins, and Quinn. The third line and fourth lines are where things get interesting here for my first realistic scenario. I have the Sabres going out and getting a couple of free agents, namely Chandler Stevenson, and a trade candidate in terms of Connor Garland. Connor Garland, I think, would be a really nice addition to the Sabres' third line. He brings some speed. He had really good finishing there in Vancouver this past season. I liked how he performed in the playoffs as well. And of course, Chandler Stevenson. He would fit that veteran top 9 center that Kevyn Adams has said he's looking for. And of course, Zach Benson would be out there on the left wing. Now, the fourth line does bring up a little bit of contentions here, I'm sure, in the comments. I have Jordan Greenway on the left wing. At center, I think the Sabres would bring back Peyton Krebs on a very cheap $975,000 one-year deal. I don't think Krebs is warranted more than that. And then over on the right winger, I think that the Sabres will bring in a prospect from Rochester. You could say that's Isak Rosén or Yuri Kulik. I think in this scenario, it will be Kulik. And yeah, that fills out the top 12 forwards for the Buffalo Sabres. Now shifting towards defense, my top 4 will remain pretty consistent in most of these scenarios. I have Dahlin, Bo Byram, Matthias Samuelsson, Owen Power. Third line as well, I have Ryan Johnson making the full-time jump up to the NHL, being paired with Henri Jokiharju. I don't understand really why a lot of people in Buffalo do not like Henri Jokiharju. I thought he played fine this past season. He was actually really productive in terms of offense, in terms of where he has performed so far in his career. He had 20 points for the Buffalo Sabres, and I see the Sabres being linked to names such as Brett Pesce. And I sit back and I go, well, don't we already kind of have these sort of defensemen, these semi-stay-at-home, these fast transition third pairing guys? We have that already with Henri Jokiharju. The only way I can see the Sabres now bringing back Jokiharju is if he asks for too much during arbitration. Now, it may not even get to arbitration. There was a rumor earlier this offseason that the Sabres may look to trade Jokiharju for a mid-round pick. In my opinion, that would be a mistake. I like Jokiharju. I like how he played, especially towards the middle to end part of last season. And I think Ryan Johnson deserves that full-time jump up to the NHL. Now, Connor Clifton will be the 7th defenseman there for the Buffalo Sabres. I was debating whether or not you want to buy him out too, but he's only got 2 years left, $3.33 million. It's not a great contract, not a good move by Kevyn Adams, but he's going to have to deal with it. And the Sabres are going to have to deal with it for at least this season and next year. Maybe, hopefully he performs better and gets traded. We shall see. And then in goaltending, I have the Sabres inking a nice deal to bring back Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen on a 4-year, $4.5 million per season deal with him, and then Devin Levi would be his backup. I think that is all pretty sensible. Although I don't know how much I love Devin Levi being the backup. Traditionally, Lindy Ruff has leaned on his number one goalie pretty heavily during the regular season and the playoffs. So it may be better in terms for Levi's development to go to Rochester for at least one more year and to get a lot of playing time. But for realism's sakes, I think that the Sabres like Devin Levi and they may want to bring him up, especially if they don't have full faith in UPL still being that consistent number one goalie. All right, let's keep on moving, folks. Let's look at my disaster scenario here for the Buffalo Sabres. And my big theme with the disaster scenario is that not much changes in terms of what happened last season, what the makeup of that team was versus what the makeup of the next season's team could be. So on the top line, Skinner, Tage, Tuck. Second line, Peterka, Cousins, Quinn. Third line, the Sabres go all youth with Yuri Kulik, Matt Savoy, and Zach Benson. Now, the reason I don't love this is because the Sabres need more experience because they're trying to win now. And this is the problem, too, and a lot of fans have pointed this out. The Sabres have too many NHL-ready prospects. You have to ship one out if you're Kevyn Adams. You cannot keep trying to keep them in Rochester, say that their potential is really high, and then never stick them on the NHL club. Keep them in the farm system. You can't do that. You have to either trade them or play them. And in this scenario, I say that the Sabres would play them, and the team wouldn't be all that good because you'd still have a lot of those growing pains that you naturally have to deal with young players. And then the fourth line, I see the Sabres having Jordan Greenway, Lucas Rusek, and their only forward free agent addition in Kevin Stenlund from the Florida Panthers. If Kevin Stenlund is the only center brought in by the Buffalo Sabres this offseason, I may scream. Now, I like Stenlund. He's really good in the face-off dot. He's very good on the penalty kill. Both are qualities of a center that the Sabres do need. But if he's it, then don't sign me up for that. I would rather go all in on offense than just get Kevin Stenlund in an offseason. And then on defense, again, no additions, no subtractions. Connor Clifton still plays a prominent role on the Sabres team going into next year. And then the goalies remain the same, except that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is getting paid $5 million a season instead of $4.5. But the big point I want everyone to take a look at is the cap space that the Sabres have. Kevyn Adams has a lot of money to work with, and if he goes into the season with still $12.6 million in cap space, that's a waste. You're just saying to your team, we'll keep trying what we did last year. Hopefully the young guys can do it. Hopefully we can ride their coattails into the playoffs and end this drought. That can't be the mindset. You have to go all in with NHL proven commodities. So to go all youth, all inexperience in this scenario would be a disaster. And finally, let's discuss my crazy scenario, which by each passing day looks a little less crazy from what the rumors are saying. So in this one, let's start off with the first line. In this one, I do have Jeff Skinner being bought out, and he's getting replaced with Teuvo Teravainen of the Carolina Hurricanes. This would be a big money splash for the Buffalo Sabres. Teravainen, I think, would complement the finishing abilities of Tage Thompson and be able to maximize the finishing abilities of Alex Tuch to a greater degree. Because to this point, Tuch has had to be the playmaker on that line. Teravainen specializes in that. This is the kind of role he played in Carolina when he was on the wing for Sebastian Aho. So Teravainen would be an excellent addition, a nice replacement for Jeff Skinner, and he's a more complete player. Pass first, finish second, but he leads to a lot of goals. That's my point. Second line, again, remains the same. Peterka, Cousins, and Quinn. Third line is where things get really spicy here for the Sabres because I see them going out and getting two very pricey veterans for short-term deals. Sean Monahan on a 4-year, $5 million a season deal, then Patrick Kane on a 2-year, $3.25 million deal. Both of these would fill out decent roles for the Sabres. Sean Monahan, less so. I think they are looking for maybe more of a defensive center in the top 9. But let's say they go all out on offense. Let's say they want to put the puck in the back of the net a whole lot more next season than they did this past season. Sean Monahan would fit that role. Patrick Kane as well. And then you have Zach Benson on the left wing. Can you imagine a line with Zach Benson and Patrick Kane on it? Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then the fourth line, Peyton Krebs again returns for the Buffalo Sabres. Jordan Greenway stays in place for Buffalo. And then Isak Rosen is your fill-in prospect on that fourth line over Kulig. I do like Rosen's game a bit more, even though he's been involved in more trade rumors than one could imagine. Now let's look at the defense here for the Sabres. You have Dahlin, Bo Byram, Ryan Johnson, Owen Power. Very youthful, very exciting top 4 core for the Sabres. Then on the third pair, you have Matthias Samuelsson, Henry Jokiharju, with Clifton as your 7th defenseman. And then in net, UPL, again, is getting linked to a 3-year, $4.5 million deal, and then Devin Levi will be the backup. So those are my 3 scenarios. I'll keep this one up for a little bit as I continue to talk so that y'all can digest this information. But yeah, so Skinner is bought out in this scenario. The Sabres go all out on remaking their top 9 by bringing in Patrick Kane and Sean Monahan. There are rumors that the Sabres are looking to bring in 3 new forwards to the team, and this is exactly what I'm doing here. 3 new forwards, all of them with scoring tendencies to a team that has found a way to put the puck in the back of the net, namely 2 years ago, but last season they really struggled for that consistency. And you also notice this is a much deeper lineup than what the Sabres had last year. Last season, you had Kyle Okposo playing on the third line at times. He was on the second line as well. That's unacceptable. And that lack of depth was really highlighted when the Sabres traded away Casey Middlestad at the deadline. So it's pretty clear the Sabres would like a cheaper third line center. This is what I think happens in a crazy world, which is a crazy world, so this may actually be more realistic than my so-called realistic scenario. But we shall see, folks. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I was Don. This is Buffalo SportsCenter. Let me know your thoughts on not only Skinner potentially being bought out, but also my realistic, disaster, and crazy scenarios in my Sabres mock-off seasons. Anyways, thank you folks so much for watching. I was Don. I hope to see all of you in the next video. Peace out.